So about 20 seconds to the...
Okay.
You'll hear me talk first anyway, so... And you just heard Rosario DiMarco, Eltham-based composer and guitarist, with his single released yesterday, The Way Forward. And Rosario, he also plays in a duo with Kavisha Mazzella called Mare Profondo. I think that's the Italian pronunciation, M-A-R-E, Mare, and Profondo. So I'm guessing profound ocean or deep ocean. Yes, though he does... regularly performs a solo artist as well, just with his guitar, and he was playing this evening, in fact, but obviously it's too late to go and see him tonight. But Rosario DiMarco, he's got a YouTube page, and he's regularly posting clips of himself performing from home. So yes, on the Music and Nillumbik show, I'm very happy to say I've been joined live in the studio by Caddy Callaghan.
Hello, Christian.
And so, yeah, Caddy, well, you singer, songwriter, multi-instrumentalist, mainly piano, keyboards.
Piano is the main, definitely my main instrument.
And living in research these days, grew up in Eltham.
Yep, grew up in Eltham. I've done a full return to where I grew up when we had our third baby and bought our home in research. And...
so we're going to hear you, well, in a little while we'll hear your debut single as a solo artist that was released on the 4th of April. I've already played it on the program before.
Yeah, thanks, Christian. That was just really beautiful when you did.
Yeah.
Light years away.
Yes, thank you. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, we'll get to the actual single, I guess, a bit later, just before we play it. And so we'll just hear that track of yours on tonight's program. But you, well, it's quite I know it's been a long process and journey to get to the stage where you have recorded a debut album, over in Nashville, produced by Rick Price. But you've, as I said, you've been living in Melbourne your whole life? Is that right?
I've lived in Melbourne my whole life.
And you've mainly, I guess, I think been mainly a solo performer over most of the years, or?
Well, I actually started in an 11-piece soul band.
Okay.
So yes, definitely began solo when I was like 14 playing. Well, I began when I was 4 playing the piano, mm-hmm. and I didn't really love being made to learn the piano, which is an interesting thing that happens to a lot of parents. So it's worth mentioning that. I loved it. I loved playing, but the actual going to the classes was not my favourite thing in the whole world.
Okay. So when did you actually start the lessons?
When I was 4.
4,
and Dad, it was Dad really that really wanted me. So I'm grateful. I say thank you, Dad, for really giving me that, just that a very direct, this is what I really believe this is good for you to do, and I'd even have moments of just crying and breaking down. I don't want to go, I haven't practiced, I don't want to do this. And I did it. And look, I did enjoy it when I began playing the Electone. The Electone's like the 80s organ.
Oh,
it's
okay.
It's a Yamaha Electone, and it's like, it's got the pedals and it's got all the, it's kind of like a DX7 but with 2 levels and the pedals, and you're learning on the bass line with your foot.
Okay, yeah, so it's like
it's really nerdy.
Organ.
Yeah, it's like there was this big spaceship one, and when I was little, my teacher Ronnie had this enormous, I forget what that was called, like an FX7 or something. Anyway, it was massive, like cathedral size organ, mm-hmm. and it was a real honour to get on that one and have a play.
And how old were you when you first
started
playing?
I was about 12.
Right.
This is so nerdy. This is it's the truth. That's how I learnt my chords, and the chords are what's driven my songwriting. So you play the chord in your left hand, and you play the melody in your right, and you play the bass line with your foot,
with your feet.
Yeah. So you've got all that great coordination happening too, and we do Barry Manilow and like Funky Town and, you know, all the 80s. That's why I had that passion for 80s TV theme show.
Okay. And so were you singing at that age already? Or?
No, let me think about that. You know, I didn't actually begin singing, I think, until I was about 16. And that's when I probably wrote my first song. And I remember writing it, and I was at CLC in Eltham at that time. And they had a concert on, and I performed. I just wrote this song called Wondering, and I performed it for the whole school. And it was just that moment where I thought, yeah, okay, this is a really big deal to be playing in front of all these CLC schoolgirls, you know.
And yes, that was the first time you performed one of your own songs.
Yeah.
Yeah, and was the I guess the motivation to write that song, was that because of the performance coming up or had you already written the song?
That's a good question. I reckon
It probably doesn't matter.
It probably doesn't really matter.
No.
None of it probably matters. But I like the question because it's I think because I love journaling, and so I loved poetry, I loved writing, so I would just write.
Yep.
And I think it just came, hey, I can actually sit here and put that to the music. And,
right. So you're writing first, and obviously you're already having started on piano and organ.
Yeah.
And so it's sort of the songwriting.
And I could press the Electone. I'd still had the Electone, right?
Yeah.
So I could go like intro, beat,
Yes.
8/8, 16 beat, totally dorky beats, but great. They're actually now like people are sampling them and using them for stuff. And then I write to the beat. So you had like a metronome in the Electone.
Yeah, and so I guess so the singing sort of began because you began to write songs, and that's why you started singing. Was it because based on becoming a songwriter? And
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I guess I always sang. I mean, children sing. Oh no, here we go. I'm having all kinds of memories. It's probably actually being brought up in the Catholic Church that I was surrounded by hymns but 80s modern day ones, which were kind of like, actually great songs. Like, you didn't have to be religious to enjoy them. So I think that gave me a lot of a foundation.
Yeah. So I guess you grew up singing.
Yeah, I grew up.
To church, singing. Yeah.
It's like If I Was a Butterfly and stuff. Like it was totally like just about presence of being a good fun kid and loving the world. That was probably more where it started.
And at school, you're doing music at school. At school for an opportunity to.
School, I have to say, besides the sing book, there wasn't a lot of. Like music, maybe like plays and stuff, but no, it wasn't until high school that I found my feet in the soul band, and and it was the Commitment style 11-piece soul band. So we just really got into that 3-part harmony, 3 female part harmony, and then the whole great band. It was great, and we toured and everything. We went around Victoria. And it really showed me, oh my God, this is what I want to do.
Yeah, I just realised. I think on Discogs, I did find
saw that.
This recording. It's got your lead vocals and what looks like.
Was it Soul Promise?
That's right. I was going to say the band name was Soul something.
There's nothing. There's just no way of hiding in this day and age.
It's on if I remember, it's on like a compilation. I think it was Studio 52 Studios or something.
Oh,
it looks like they recorded a whole bunch.
Well, that's interesting because Studio 52 are kind of local now, but they began recording us when we were in high school. We went to them to record a proper professional CD. That was a big deal, and that's what started their whole Cool Schools project.
Right. So So from memory, I think that particular compilation came out in 1995.
Yeah,
so,
95. Yeah. Well done.
Obviously a teenager.
this is just...
Anyway, that's only
the truth.
That's the only thing I found on Discogs up until your own song recently.
Oh, well, okay. So I was also in a kids duo called Knick Knack.
Okay.
And that actually had considerable success in the US, in Boston, of all places. Boston, Canada, England, Yeah, I know. This is all just.
Okay.
I've got a background, Christian,
Right.
but it's it's kids' music. It was actually adult songs that I made into children's music.
Okay.
So but it holds up, and I'd like
So
to actually bring it into this era and put it on.
So what years are we?
We're talking.
roughly?
That was about 2000 to 2. So yeah, 2000-ish, 2004 maybe.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
I'll have to give you a copy.
Yeah,
I've still got them in my garage.
Yeah, so I was going to say it's been quite a long journey to get to the point where you've and I know even the debut album that has been recorded, even that whole recording process has taken quite a few years from the time.
Pretty sacred, I have to say. I'm just going to say it's a pretty amazing thing to find myself. I think if you are a passionate music lover and you have been journeying the music journey since you're little, you just know that you come to points where you think it's not going to happen, or you're not going to be able to maybe create what you want to create. But now I've come to a point at this time where I realise if it truly is your passion, if you truly love it, and you truly are called to it for the reasons of just loving it, then you will find a way to make it happen at whatever point in your life. Yeah, and that is moving. So yes, I began making this record over 10 years ago, actually. And that was, 2015. I began making it. And then I said, right, I don't have a band. I'm going to go and I'm going to get session players. Because that was what was I don't have a band. How am I going to find a band? I have a band now, that's beautiful, but it's been a journey to find those amazing musicians. So band, got session musicians in, started recording it. Then one of the studios went under. They couldn't complete the job, so then they passed it on to a friend of theirs who's fantastic, and I really enjoyed. And then COVID. Then I went off to study. I had just followed another calling in hospital clinical pastoral care, and I just had to follow that at that time.
Yep.
So I paused it all, but and then COVID, 2 years. During that time, that's when I met Rick Price, and actually I met Rick before that at a concert, and he just kind of said, "Oh, you should come over to Nashville if you're a singer-songwriter. This would be." And I thought, yeah, right. This is,
And just to clarify for people who haven't heard or seen you live or basically heard your music, because when people think Nashville, automatically, of course, they think, country. Yeah. So we better just clear this.
Sure, yeah. So I've actually heard this asked to Rick a lot of times too, because people, naturally, and I, with full respect to the country music scene of Nashville, it's,
Yeah, well, there's more to Nashville than country music.
Well, there is, but I want to honour that also, that it's a thing,
Yes.
And then
I thought just for listeners, really just mention, because that
it's
automatically
true. I say Nashville and people do say,
you're not a country artist,
so you're a country. No, I almost wish I was, to be honest. And maybe I'll be able to.
Well, not yet.
Maybe I'll bring out a few in the future. That it's just a really good genre to be in, to get live gigs. Like, I don't know, it's just it's a good genre, especially to be able to travel around and play. Anyway, no, mine's pop. Mine's definitely pop. It's pop music, and I do write folky tunes, but it's more ends up when I'm writing from the heart. It ends up as pop music. So.
Yeah, and even though you're mainly a piano player, keyboard player, but you do play at your
I play
ukulele, guitar.
I play guitar. When I say I play guitar, so yes, I'm a self-taught guitarist and I'm a self-taught ukuleleist. Is that what they're called?
Yeah, ukulele player anyway.
Okay, ukuleleist. Maybe I've just made that word
term,
up.
I can't remember.
So they're wonderful, and harp.
Yeah, yes.
Very basic harp as well. All the other instruments are basic.
Yeah.
Harmonium.
Harmonium, I was going to say.
The harmonium's just, of course, the manual bellows action of a keyboard. So you can play a chord, you can play the harmonium. What else?
Yeah, and these are all instruments that you've played live.
I learned violin for a year, and cello I learned for a few years,
okay.
but I don't really consider I play them. They're wonderful to write with, you know, when you play an instrument you're not very good at,
Yeah.
like you're
have
not
other
proficient,
instruments
then it can actually open up your songwriting, because even just one note or two notes on the ukulele is how I wrote this song that is called Bee's Knees, and it's like it's one of my most favourite songs because it's so simple, and it's just two notes.
And is that song going to be on the?
No, it's not. But I'm thinking of maybe doing that with the band. Like we pull off a nice little mellow.
Yeah, and so your band's just called the Caddy Callaghan Band. Is that
yeah?
correct?
We've over the years we've flirted with some different ideas, but we just the Caddy Callaghan Band.
Well, usually it's just. I mean, the gigs it's usually just. I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, I just say the
just
Caddy Callaghan Band.
Okay, yeah.
So claim it as my own band. No, you know what? I do claim them as my own band because it's been a long journey to find these beautiful musicians. Tony Haddis, Chris on bass. He played guitars for many years.
He's a multi-instrumentalist as well.
Yeah.
But, probably plays with you. He's a bass player, basically.
Yeah, and he's basically brilliant musician. I love Tony. And Chris Arrowsmith, who is a drummer, brilliant musician, brilliant drummer. And Jared Boyle from Eltham Guitar Service is playing guitars for me when we can find the cloned versions of ourselves that are able to get together to have to play. You know how it is.
So sometimes you do gigs with duo gigs with just you and Tony.
True, yeah.
Or obviously
or
just
a trio.
Solo
we
gigs
can play with just Chris and Tony.
Yeah, or even just with Jared. I know this one time I saw. There's different configurations of the four of you.
There are, but it's just so lovely to find people that you can play with that you know so well that they get you, and when we play it's just very symbiotic. It's a joy, and we just all it doesn't feel forced. In the past things sometimes have felt forced and a bit tricky, and you know, finding musicians that are on the same vibe, you know, groovy baby, like, you know, really it's a thing. You know,
and so when did the band I guess come together?
Well, we were last year. We were really going at it strong with our rehearsal schedule and gigs, and just the reality is that I find if you're in the recording process and producing the work and in the moment doing that, it's really very quite challenging to do both, to be performing live, to be rehearsing, and to be producing or recording your record. And if it was just me and I could do it all day long with no other obligations or responsibilities, but I really love if I can get together with the guys once a month or once every 6 weeks or whatever. That's magical. We make the most of it.
Yeah. And so obviously Jared's in Eltham, and the other two, I think they're both in Hurstbridge. I think.
Chris was for a long time. Now he's in Strathewin now.
Yeah, Strathewin, that's right. But used to be in Hurstbridge. Yep. Well, they're all in Nillumbik anyway.
Is Strathewin in Nillumbik? It is?
Yeah. Yes.
I don't know. This is a geography question.
Someone let us know.
Yeah. It's cool. It's a beautiful place.
Yeah, so I guess, getting back to the album, so after a couple of, I guess I wouldn't say false starts, I mean, that you began at 2 different studios.
Yeah.
Was it always the same, was it mostly the same songs back then, which have now...
They've really evolved. It's amazing. And this is the thing, and it's interesting to say false start, because, like, what is a false start and what is really, really valuable experience with everything and anything in life? Like, because you can just say everything that hasn't gone to plan is a false or a failure, and I don't like to think of it like that. I really go, wow, that experience was precious. It was hard. There was a lot of really, really challenging stuff that happened and to get through. But it's all brought me to where I'm now. And that's a journey of life. And so I don't like to say anything is, that was a disaster, or that's a failure, or this is false start, or it's just no point. I think there's no point.
Yeah, so...
stick with the meaning and reason for it all. This is what I like to do.
Yeah, so because I believe at least some of the songs are quite old songs that you'd written. I think there's one you wrote as a little,
Yeah, 16.
well, as a
So
teenager,
there is-
and
It's true, Christian. I've got one on the record called Beautiful, and it is a song that I wrote when I was 16, sitting at my family piano. I get emotional talking about it because my grandma had written a poem for my mum, and it's a beautiful poem, and it was the lyrics of it was just a poem in a beautiful book that she made, and when I read that, I just started playing, and it came through. The whole song just came through, and then I added the chorus to it. And so that's a song for my mum, written by both my grandma and me, and that's really special because my grandma's not here anymore. Yeah. So yes, I wrote that when I was 16.
Yeah. So that would have been during your first year of being a songwriter, I think. Yeah. So very early.
I know, and so this is why it's so special that the record will have songs that I've written both quite recently and from there. So there's going to be I think 11 songs on the record, and it's really beautiful to have that. Beautiful to have beautiful.